Welcome back to Cheddar's News Round. The House Financial Services Committee plans to have a hearing on market volatility. The hearing, entitled GameStop, Who Wins and Loses When Short Sellers, Social Media, and Retail Investors Collide, will take place on February 18th.
This, of course, coming after GameStop turned trading upside down and the app Robinhood faced the wrath of Redditors. Joining us now, California Representative Maxine Waters. She, of course, is the chair of the House Committee on Financial Services. Representative, great for you to take the time. Thank you so much for doing so. So are you coming into the hearing on the 18th already sort of assuming that Robinhood has been guilty of wrongdoing? Or in your estimation, is there room for the company to present exculpatory evidence in its defense?
I am not starting this hearing taking sides or believing that Robinhood is guilty of anything. As a matter of fact, this hearing is going to be educational. It's going to be a learning experience for everybody. We're going to have all the players. We will have not only Robinhood, Vladimir, Teknev, I think is his name, Tenev. We'll have him there. We'll have the young man there from Reddit, who his name is Keith Gill, who basically started this mania. We will hopefully have some hedge fund representation there. We're going to make sure that we're not taking sides. We understand what is being said. We understand what is being said by Robinhood and why it did what it did in terms of limiting the buying. We understand that the hedge funds have lost a lot of money. We understand that, the shorting is a big issue and a big conversation. But what a lot of people didn't know about was the short squeeze. And so we're going to learn an awful lot. We're going to have them all here.
Representative, you touched on this a moment ago. Robinhood has argued liquidity was the reason for limiting trading. How does that justification work? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I don't really know what he's talking about. He's talking about being out of compliance. What he says are requirements that they have a certain amount of liquidity. And I don't know if he means that in terms of reserve or what it is to be matched up with. But this is what he claims. And so we're going to listen to him. And of course, we will have information from the SEC and from FINRA to find out exactly whether or not there are laws that cover liquidity and how much they must have on reserve or anything like that. So we're open-minded. We're going to listen.
Representative Waters, what are some of the tangible reforms, if you can give us a potential preview here, the laws, the actual legislation that might end up emerging from something like this? And do you see that some of those reforms might be aimed more at the brokers like Robinhood or more at the hedge funds, the Melvin Capitals and the Citadels of the world?
Well, I don't know, but I do know this. We're living at a time when it seems that the gap between the haves and the have-nots has grown. And there is a lot of resentment toward the richest 1% in this country. It seems as if they have the advantages of the relationships with elected officials, and they put big money into politics, and they make big money. And you have some of the big hedge fund guys who are billionaires and all of that. So I suspect that there is resentment. And I think there's resentment against, short selling. I think there's resentment against hedge funds being able to borrow and to drive down the price of stock. And so I think that, that will be looked at, as well as, Robinhood will be looked at. And I tell you for myself, with Robinhood, I never thought to ask them in the one conversation I had with them a couple of years ago, where they earn their money and how they earn their money, particularly when they told me they don't collect commissions. And I should have thought to ask, so how do you survive? What do you do? How do you earn your money? So we want to know a lot more about that. We want to know about the relationship with Citadel, and we want to know exactly whether or not that relationship undermines its ability to have this platform available for these small retailers in the way that they think it is available to them.
I'm curious, do you see this as a bipartisan issue, Representative, or are you facing significant backlash from Republicans?
No, it may be bipartisan, but usually what you have is you have those members that are closer to Wall Street, who work closer with private equity and with hedge funds, and then you have those who have no relationship to them and do believe that they need to be reined in, that they have too much privilege, too much power, and too much influence. So it's divided.
I think a lot of this is understandably so going to continue the conversation, Representative Waters, about whether or not it's appropriate for members of Congress to hold stocks at all. And this is an issue that we saw litigated to some degree with a handful of former Republican senators, especially the last year. Should a member of Congress be allowed to hold positions in publicly traded companies?
Well, what I think is that members of Congress should be allowed to invest, should be allowed to earn a living in all of the ways that's open to the average public. But insider trading absolutely cannot be allowed. Everything that's done to ensure that advanced knowledge and information is not available to members of Congress. And if they get caught, they should have to pay a price for it and, be convicted of insider trading. And so I certainly don't think they should have any advantages. But if there's a way that they could invest and earn money or lose money, they should be able to do it.
How easy is it here to regulate this space without hurting the retail investors?
Well, I don't think that it's easy to regulate at all. I think even for SEC, who's our cop on the block, that they are stymied in some ways, or they have things that they would like to do or changes that they would like to make, but that is not easily done. And so we don't know how much SEC is going to be engaged in this. This is all new, but we're going to try and find out.
Representative Waters, I want to clarify something from your first response. We knew that Vlad Tenev of Robinhood was going to be there. I want to confirm that you said that Keith Gill, who is a well-known Reddit user, sort of one of the originalists of the Wall Street Bets sort of mania surrounding GameStop. Did you say that? Are you confirming that Keith Gill will also be as part of this hearing?
I have him on my list to be present. I have him on my list. They have not confirmed all of my list yet, but I want him. I want him here. I want him here, and I want absolutely to have Robinhood here. I even want to have GameStop here because what we're looking at. They're the center of all of this. I mean, this is where this all started. And they have been working with an old over-the-counter model for the way that they rent out their video games, et cetera, et cetera. And it's interesting to know and understand when you have businesses who are now disadvantaged because of the digital age, what they do and how they're trying to turn that around. And I understand that they are working on turning around, and that there is a real possibility that they could be successful at this. So I want them here too. I want to know a little more about GameStop. I want Robinhood. I want Reddit, and I want the big boys here.
Another big story in Washington, Representative, of course, is impeachment. We want to talk to you about that. Republicans have used your previous calls of harassing Trump officials as evidence that escalating rhetoric began with Democrats. What is your reaction to that?
Well, the fact of the matter is, everybody here was witness to our Capitol being invaded. There was an insurrection that took place. Prior to the actual invasion and attack, the President of the United States of America was seen urging them, encouraging them, telling them to go fight, to save their country, and don't back up. And he had a relationship with many of whom who are considered domestic terrorists. And some of the planning, it appeared, came out of his campaign, where people were working in his campaign who were planning with domestic terrorists for this visit. And they say openly, we were invited here by the President of the United States. When you couple that with the way the president has defined himself ever since he was sworn into office, his relationship with Putin and the oligarchs of Russia, the way that Russia hacked into our DNC and he refused to condemn them, the way he would meet in private with them and not allow anybody on his staff to be in those meetings, the way that he has talked about women and basically the way that he has lied so many times. The way that he has not paid attention to COVID-19 and the fact that he was more centered on trying to steal votes and take away legitimate votes, and rather than paying attention to COVID-19 when it first hit us. If we had gotten on top of it when it first hit us, we wouldn't be in such a bad place now. But he refused to listen to the scientists. And so it's so much about this past president, so much about the fact that he has no good values and that he is capable of division. And it's so much about him until I think he should have been impeached a long time ago. And even though he was impeached once, I think that was on the wrong issue. I think on the Ukraine issue, that was too distant for people. I didn't think that Americans really identified with that so much. But I do know that all over the world, they saw one of the most important buildings in the Washington, D.C., the Capitol building, that was invaded. They saw them break the windows. They saw them in Nancy Pelosi's office. They saw them calling for Nancy as if they were going to kidnap her or kill her. They saw them with a foot up on her desk. They saw them climbing the walls of the Capitol. And they know that 5 people are dead because of that invasion. And so I really do believe that even if we have senators who don't join with us, they know because they were witness to this. And many of them were hiding under their desk or crowded into one room where some people contacted the virus because the Republicans didn't have on masks. So they know all of this. And I know that many of them have the fear of God. I mean, they fear Trump. And I know that when we had McCarthy literally go and kiss the ring of the president recently and get his marching orders, that we cannot count on many of them because they fear that they're not going to be reelected. They fear that they're going to have to march to the orders of the president, and they better do what they're told. And it's unfortunate because really what I believe that if you don't have the courage of your convictions, if you're not man or woman enough to stand up for what you supposedly believe in, you don't need to be a representative. You don't need to be here. And if you're going to allow yourself to be dictated to by someone like Trump, then I think that the people who sent you here need to reassess why they voted for you and change their minds and not send you back.
Our special thanks to California Representative Maxine Waters, of course, the chair of the House Committee on Financial Services. We will certainly be tuned in for the hearing. Thank you so much for taking the time. A really important story, I think, to so many Americans, especially our viewers. And we're very appreciative, as always, when you take a few moments for us here at Cheddar. Representative Waters, thanks a lot. Great to have you.